The Neewer Vision5 Studio Flash is a $350-ish 400-watt battery-powered Monolight that currently supports TTL for Nikon, Canon, and Sony. This appears to be the same exact light as the Visico5 TTL, which is another Chinese brand. It supports high-speed sync up to 1/8000th of a second, and in addition to TTL, you get manual mode and multi-flash, or what's also known as stroboscopic mode. It's got a 2.4 GHz radio system built in, and every package that I could find online includes a wireless trigger. Also included is a 13-foot, 3.5mm sync cable if for some reason you don't want to use the wireless trigger. 8 channels and 3 groups allows you to add a ton of lights and control them all remotely. It's got a Bowens mount for attaching softboxes or other accessories, and it comes with a removable reflector and diffusion material. The reflector and light also feature a hole for attaching umbrellas or any other pole-based modifier. There's also a built-in 13-watt dimmable modeling light with 6 levels of power adjustment. The 6000 mAh battery is rated for 500 full power flashes with a recycle time of around 2 seconds and down to as quick as 0.01 seconds at its lowest power. This thing is very solidly built. It's got a fan built in to keep the unit cool, and so with the battery, this thing weighs in closer to 5 pounds rather than the advertised 4. The system also has built-in overheat, overvoltage, and overcurrent protection, all under budget. The good news is that it doesn't have that cheap plastic feel you're probably used to if you've owned a Neewer made product before. It's got a nice thin silicone shell around the entire main body, which should help to keep the light protected from dings and scratches. It's about 8 inches long without the reflector and just over 4 inches wide. So if you're going to be transporting this or multiple lights around, you're going to need a decent sized carrying bag or case. Neewer and others make good photography carrying cases with backpack and roller options. You can check out some of those in the description down below. One of my favorite features about this light is the pistol grip for hand holding. This is great if you're on location where it may be hard to set up a light stand, though you should probably make sure your assistant is relatively buff because it's probably going to get heavy after a while. This thing is theoretically future-proof with the inclusion of a USB port for firmware upgrades. I couldn't find any on the Neewer website, but there are some from Visico. I read in an Amazon review that someone was having issues, firing a multi-light setup, and that the Visico firmware upgrade not only worked for the Neewer, but fixed the issue. Since I haven't had any issues or really see a need or benefit from upgrading the firmware, for now I'm going to stick with the stock setup. It's also worth noting that they only provide an upgrade utility that's compatible for Windows. This thing just simply works. I haven't experienced any misfires, though I've only tested up to about 100 feet. The advertised distance is 262 feet, but I'm sure most people will never need to fire that far. If you do, I'd probably suggest getting a more professional radio system. Since it's got a 3.5mm sync port, I don't see why this wouldn't work with Pocket Wizards or some other third-party radio triggering system. The menu system is really easy to navigate and isn't overly complicated like some of the other systems out there. It's just dead simple to get in, make the adjustments you need, and get back to shooting. The power ranges from full power all the way down to 1/128th with 1/3 stop increments. If you use TTL, you get flash exposure compensation in 1/3 stop increments as well. I haven't noticed any significant heat coming from the unit, but I also haven't pushed it to the extreme of shooting hundreds of full power flashes back to back, but I would still say that the fan is doing its job well. I should also note that it's pretty quiet too. A few of the things that I don't like, one of them being you can't use a power cable to power the flash. This seems like a small oversight and not really a hard or costly feature to implement. I don't know a damn thing about electrical, so I may be wrong here, but for me it's not even close to being a deal breaker since I bought this for location shooting. But if you use it in a studio, you could probably benefit from a normal power cable in case your battery dies mid-shoot. Like I mentioned earlier, there's no Mac version for the firmware upgrades. For me, this isn't a big deal. Like I said, so far I haven't really had a reason to upgrade the firmware, but in the future it's sort of a pain to do the workarounds to run PC software on Macs. If you're less than tech savvy, this may be a burden you're not going to want to deal with. They also left out an optical slave. Now, for me, this isn't a huge deal, but it would be nice to have, especially since the technology is really old, and at this point, the Vision5 triggering system doesn't even work with the lower-end, newer branded speedlights. Hopefully, a future firmware upgrade will address that. For $350, this Monolight is pretty hard to beat. The Godox AD400, or the Adorama branded Flashpoint V1, that round head flash, is 200 watts, and it doesn't even come close to this with only half the power and almost nearly the same cost as the Vision5. I was initially going to buy the Godox AD400 or the Flashpoint Xplor 400 Pro, but Given the $650 price tag and the great reviews of this light, I'm very happy I got the Vision 5. I took a break from photography and used to be somewhat invested in the Godox Flashpoint system of lights before I sold them all off. Now don't get me wrong, those lights are awesome, built and work really well and come with top-notch customer support and a great warranty. This decision just made the most financial and technical sense for me. I can't speak to the long-term viability of these lights, but according to most Amazon reviews, it seems like most people are getting great life out of them. If you're on a budget and need more power than a speedlight can offer, the Vision 5 is a solid investment. Rather than spend $650 on an equivalent light from Godox or Adorama, you can invest that extra cash in light modifiers or towards a new lens. I put some general recommendations in the description down below, so go check those out. Thanks for watching.